Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first Monsters and Movies Symposium for Wolf Manor. And can I introduce to you Director Dominic Brunt. Come on down, Dominic. Shaune Harrison, and Thorpe.
Hello. Thanks for staying. Thank you. I just thought we'd start. We bought a load of these as kind of like second props. So some of them have been used and some of them haven't in the film. But we didn't know whether to give them away with like a question, and then actually suggested we give them away to anybody with a limp or anyone. Oh, there's two of you already. You're not making it up, so just get it. There's a couple there, and you both put their hands up, you liars. Has anybody got a genuine, like... Oh, you have this one? Oh my God, it's true. Well, you can have that one. Oh! Is it like a Manchester thing that you've got things up with the legs? Is it true that you've definitely got something wrong? True. You can't, you've got two of you again. Really true? Alright then, okay.
No, Lenny definitely has a foot problem.
What, like a fungal thing? Was there somebody else at the back? I've only got one more. Who's got the worst legs?
Mine are pretty awful. Metal in mine.
You got metal in your leg? Alright then. Go on then. I'll get you another one at the back. I'll get you another one later on. I've got one in the back of the car.
Who's this one for?
The chap there with metal in his leg. And then, oh, by the way, and the heads are genuine silver coloured. Right, that's the first quarter of an hour of the
I know, that's not quite how I thought it was going to start. Also, can we introduce your editor?
Yeah, Andy McKee. So I know he's not on the thing, but he said, can I come and see the film? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot you lived in Manchester. So yeah, he's come along and we've dragged him along with us.
So I'm going to have to think of a question for you now, Andy.
What's it like editing?
So I just, first of all, Dom, congratulations. We know, some of the filmmakers here, how super hard it is on low-budget indie filmmaking. So tell us a little bit about Wolf Manor. I mean, I know you shot it in how many days?
13 nights.
Wow.
Yeah, but, you know, we planned and, what's it called? Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Is that the right way around? Yeah. So we made sure the shots were all down properly and we hit it hard. So we could start at 9 o'clock and then finish at, was it like 5:30?
5:30 and the sun was coming up.
Yeah, and the weird thing was, so because you end up being nocturnal, people still wanted like a social life as well. So by 6 o'clock in the morning, people were cracking out the gin and tonics to watch the sun come up. So it's really odd being really drunk at like 8 o'clock in the morning and going to bed at 10. It's really odd, wasn't it? Yeah.
Not for Shaune. No. Well, it wasn't difficult for Shaune.
No. I wasn't doing it at that time. But yeah, it was great. It was because it is hard, but genuinely it was a joy, and the goodwill was there throughout, and you feel like you're doing a disservice by saying it was good fun, but it really genuinely was. It was great, and I think that's because people were drinking gin and were slightly skewed with the time of night. Yeah.
So James Fleet's performance was actually gin infused then?
Well, James Fleet, because we couldn't afford James Fleet, because he gets like 150 grand per film, and he'd just done is it Finding Richard? What's the King one? With Sally Hawkins. And but then I did a bit of Wikipedia, and he was an engineer, or he was an engineer, and I used to be a welder for 6 years when I left school. So he said, I want to speak to the director about the script, blah, blah, blah. So I rang him, and the first thing I said was, oh, you're an engineer. So we spoke about engineering for about an hour, and he went, oh, I'll just do it then, that's great. So we got it for very little, but so I conned him into doing it, really.
Like you do. So, and just in terms of, brand new werewolf movie, and obviously we're going to be screening American Werewolf tomorrow, which is 41 years old. It's amazing. So where do you think that Wolf Manor sits in the whole pantheon of werewolf movies?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm in the presence of the director of Dog Soldiers. I mean, what can you do? You know, I wouldn't ever. Admit, we just heard that you had a line in The Howling as well, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, amazing. So we're little and we're. It's not for me to say. I don't know.
The newest.
The newest. Thank you not so much. Yeah, and free walking sticks.
What's not to like? So just in terms of the creature design, and so in terms of how obviously there's a myriad of werewolf movies out there. So how did Shaune, you and Paula approach the design of the monster?
I mean, to be honest, when Pete Wilde, who was the producer and co-writer, first contacted us, first thing he said over a Zoom call was, "Do you want to do a werewolf film?" And you think, yeah, but what type of werewolf? You know, you can go down the American Werewolf, the Howling. I mean, they're the ones, Dog Soldiers. You look at werewolf films that have been done before, and then you say, how much money have you got, and how much time have you got? So when we looked at it, we realised it wasn't going to be animatronic. Because I mean, the time we had, I think we had 5 or 6 weeks prep to do it.
The script by this time he contacted us.
Yeah, so the script, I think he'd written 10 pages at that point, as an idea. So we went through the ideas. He said, "Do you want a transformation scene?" He was like, no transformation. We're like, okay, because that's costly. And then we looked at everything. We looked at all the other stuff. We looked at Rick Baker's Wolf Man stuff, and we said, "Do you want to go that route where it's more of a beast werewolf crossover?" And then who was going to play the werewolf? So that was one of the kind of things that, I mean, I stupidly in my first Zoom meeting said, "I'll play the werewolf." Yeah, and I literally said, "I'll play it because it'd be easy. I can get my body casted, do my head cast, light cast, all that, get it out of the way." And then we thought, well, it's only me and Paula doing all the makeup effects, so I'll be doing makeup effects in werewolf suits, which I didn't want to do. So then we had a friend, Mark, who was originally going to be playing the werewolf, and he was really enthusiastic, really wanted to get into the whole creature suit stuff. We thought, great, brought him in the workshop, live casting, did all the moulding for him, sculpted the werewolf on him. Dom was then involved in the look and the design. We were trying to just kind of see what we could do that was quick to shoot. It was prosthetics every day, full suits and stuff like that. And then we arrived on the location in Shropshire. 2 days before we were filming, the actor got COVID. And considering it was 13-day shoot, we were the second day shooting, we were like, what do we do? It was literally like, wasn't it, Dom? We were, how do we approach it? So we all had a think, who plays the werewolf? Luckily, Ellie, the production assistant, her husband was an actor. He was 6'1", Morgan. And then we literally got Morgan in, test fitted everything, went, it fits. And he was brilliant. And to be honest, it was probably a blessing in a way, because we tried it on him and he was like, yeah, he just didn't know how to move at that point. So we're in the stables, we had the little stable block of the makeups. And I was kind of walking and thinking, this is how we could walk with the werewolf and stuff. Dom was in there trying to, because he'd never played a werewolf before. So it was a case of, up and running as soon as possible, got him in the suit, and then we filmed, I think, 2 days later with him in the suit. We had to kind of retrofit things like teeth and stuff like that, make sure they fitted in well and stuff. But he just did it without, thankfully he's a breeze. There wasn't any issues with Morgan, which was brilliant.
I seem to think that you used a lot of blood in that movie, because that's one of the things that always gets missed off the budget. It's like, actually, how much blood? And generally directors are always shouting for more blood.
Yeah.
Literally the second day we had to order more blood.
Yeah, we ran out of gallons and gallons of blood. And it was a case of like, we'd say to Dom, how many more big
blood?
I always want more blood.
Yeah.
I still don't think there was enough blood, actually. There was little bits that you see now, you go, could have been more blood in that bit, yeah.
But it was just a case of, just ordering as much blood as we can. And, obviously, blood, a lot of projects now use CG to blood, obviously because the clean-up time. So, and we did that one shot with the blood hits the window as well. And you threw all that blood on there. Then the guy who was doing the shot with the lighting forgot to turn the lights off or something.
Even when we counted it down.
Yeah, counted it down. He was like,
Do it again.
3, 2, 1, throw, lights off, or lights on. And he completely missed it, so we had to clean all the blood. And I'm like trying to scrape blood off the floor, thinking, that's about 4 gallons of blood we just thrown against the window. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, you just buy as much, buy as much blood as possible, really. that's the name of it. And just kind of use the good blood for all the close-ups and kind of the watered-down blood for all the shots in the background and stuff. Because we were pouring blood on the ground, soaking in. It was just soaking into the wet ground, wasn't it? I mean, literally pouring buckets of it. And it was just like, oh, it just looks like water, you know. So it was, difficult. Yeah.
So now I think we'll all agree that Ashley's little epilogue at the end was fantastic, little bit of animation. Now, Ashley, we invited you to screen Borley Rectory back in 2017.
2017.
And that's where you and Don met, actually.
It was.
Adult babies.
We gazed at each other across the foyer, and we knew we were meant for each other. Yeah. We just kind of got chatting. You know, Dom's very kind of down to earth, and we like the same sort of films. And we screened both films back in like 5 years ago, and we just kept in touch ever since.
And I'm actually going to pass you my microphone because obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the script and the backstory and how you came about that, because there actually wasn't one. So I'm going to pass it over to you and Ashley can talk about that.
Well, Pete and Joel were very insistent that there was never a backstory and that we had to give a nod to that. So during the film, they said there's nothing in this. This is a frippery, which they kind of, as much as we argued about there being more to it, he just said no. This is pure. This is almost like a slasher werewolf film, because we just want, there's the protagonist and there's the victims, and we just go through them, and that's it, and that was it. And we couldn't change a single thing. And I was like, all right, yeah, because every film that we've ever made has been kind of, in a Ponzi way, like allegorical or it's been a metaphor for something else. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air to just go, well, all right then, let's just kill all them like every 10 minutes through the 8 minutes that it's on. What was the question?
Well, it was a little bit about the backstory.
Oh yeah. So, that's right. Yeah. So, and then, I might as well tell the truth. And then it came in short, you know, and to get to certain territories, it's got to be a certain length, and it's either, well, you lengthen certain scenes, or you stick in the bits that you pulled out and put them in and get it to there. But it was tight, and it ran at a certain length at a certain pace, and I really, really wanted to keep that. But we've always used animation, whether it's been stop motion animation with Lee Hardcastle or cartoon animation, and I was a massive fan of Borley Rectory, and I just like putting animation in our films. So it was a good opportunity again to fill in a bit of the backstory and get some animation in the film, you know, and a chance to work with Ashley again.
Yeah.
Well, there was a script as well. We did send you.
There was, yeah. It was great, because I mean, the best thing about when Dom sends this stuff over is that there'll be a script like there was with Evie as well, you know, where there'll be. So I'll know what kind of things that they're going to film against a green screen. So I'll know what kind of footage I'm going to get to work with. But then it's great that Dom kind of completely trusted me to. So let's say it's Victorian. It's this kind of Victorian music hall kind of look to it. Go for it. And it really was, because I think he knew that I was going to obviously reference the sort of the universal pictures of the 30s and things. But also he knew I was probably going to go full Caligari on it, because I've got this real thing, which is, you know, Borley was an expression of that. This idea of using animation to do the things that it's quite hard to do in natural film production, where you just exaggerate everything. So you use light in a painterly way, and you can just go to town on it. Why should it look realistic? It doesn't have to look realistic, it just has to evoke a mood. And Dom just completely let me go to town on it. I think, you know, quite often with animation, you get so many notes back and forwards from people because they don't know what they want until you've done it, and then they don't want it. You know, that happens all the time with animation, and it's so hard to pull apart the tapestry and kind of correct it and make it, almost kind of try to divine what it is that they actually wanted in the first place. But I think Dom just trusted me to just get on with it. It's like, you get it, you get this kind of material, it's gothic horror, we're obviously referencing like the, you know, the Universal stuff. Make it kind of look like that, give it your kind of style, and it was a joy just to kind of go to town and do my little mini werewolf film and mashing up all the things that I loved about it.
But I think that's the thing with, you can either, we spoke about that earlier about people that look for problems actually with special effects as well, where people go, well, I don't like that thing and I don't like that. Well, you think, well, I'm not a special effects expert, I'm not going to give you notes on the werewolf, and I'm not an animator at all, I'm not an editor, you know, so like, the great thing about Andy saying you're not allowed in the room for the first 6 weeks. I'm editing, I'm the editor, and then I'll show it and we can pull it back around to what you think. And I think that's, part of your strengths as a director, as much as, you know, we are in the lowly canon of where we sit, is the collaboration of saying, well, you know, even the music of saying, well, I'm not a musician, you know, so you do that, and you do that, and you do that. And we might pull little bits into that, but I'm not going to give a million notes because you're the experts and I'm just the director. So I think it's the best way of doing it, really.
Okay, right. So just a little bit more about that in terms of the look of the epilogue. It looks very much within like the German expressionist. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, because I mean, the thing about the Universal, certainly the earlier Universal pictures, is that you can see that kind of Germanic influence in the lighting style. And that was always the thing that I got most excited about. When I first got interested in animation, I got excited about people like Svankmajer and the Brothers Kray, and things like and sort of early cinema, Méliès and all these sorts of things. And those were the sort of dawn of cinema stuff really excited me, because I thought you can break all the rules of reality with it. So and it seems especially relevant to something like horror or anything that's fantastical. It just gives you the perfect excuse just to go to town on it. If you were doing something that had to look natural, I mean, I have to do compositing works for things where they're supposed to look like TV adverts, and you don't get to do that. It's just make sure nobody can tell this is fake. Whereas it was something fantastical, I don't care, you know. In fact, that the more out there you go with it, nobody cares whether it looks realistic or not, because it becomes painterly. It's like, you know, if you look at some of the stuff where the werewolves walking around backstage, those are some of my favourite shots in it, because they make no sense, really. It's just crisscrosses of light, and there's beams at weird angles. But the beam goes there because it looks nice, because the rule of thirds, and that looks nice there, and we should have a barrel there, because they probably would have had a barrel and some ropes. And you're doing it like a painting, you're getting freehand with it, even though it's digital. And that's the way I love to work, because usually animation's so technical, and it has to look this way, it has to look that way. And it's so nice when somebody just goes, you know, Dom especially just says, go off and do what you do. And I just get my box of paints out, you know, and it's like, right, here we go then. And it's all my favourite stuff just gets worked into it.
And also, I just mentioned that Borley Rectory, of course, you worked with Reese, who's with us, and so, yeah, it's
Indeed, yeah.
a pleasure to And so, Andy, what was your, from an editorial point of view, I guess, what was your biggest challenge? And you're going to say time, aren't you?
No, the time was actually okay, because well, they only shot for 13 days, so I wasn't drowning in footage technically. So it was a real pleasure to work on. Like Dom said, I was working on it whilst they were shooting. That was one of the great things, is I had the footage beamed over to me whilst they were shooting, so I could be assembling. So not long after they finished shooting, I had a finished film that then me and Dom could start honing together. And I think in terms of what I brought to it, it was just about trying to make sure that even though we were just killing off 9 characters in a row, I wanted you to kind of care about everybody and keep that threat of the werewolf there all through the film without showing it too much. So a lot of times in those early scenes when people get killed, you don't really see much. It's all kind of off camera, blurs going past and stuff like that. And we slowly build to seeing the werewolf more and more, which, you know, if you're a producer, you can be, oh, well, we paid for this werewolf costume, let's, you know, show it as early as often as we can. And pulling back on that urge and just like letting there be something to reveal later on. And then obviously, yeah, what was really fun as well was building that film within the film at the beginning, which I actually really like the tone of. It has that kind of Hammer horror-esque feel to it, and we created all these fake titles and stuff to kind of give that tone, so that then when you pull the rug from under the audience and say, oh no, actually that's not the film, hopefully that has an effect. So yeah, it was really, really fun to work on. Lots of great performances. As soon as I got the first scene with James Fleet in, I knew it was going to be with joy. So yeah, really happy with it.
So as this is a symposium, I am going to ask the audience to ask lots of questions, because you're all part of this wonderful event. So we do have somebody with a microphone, so first question. Come on. Somebody always has to go first. I know it's painful, but you can do it. There we go. Well done, David.
Congratulations. I'm interested to know in terms of the mechanics of how you put the film together. You know, what was the budget, and you know, how did you get the money together and set the film up?
We talked about that before, that we might as well be honest about it all. And so the budget was just under £200,000, and we were saying that you get a lot of kind of people approaching you saying, can you give me some tips about film finance? And this is our 5th feature film, and I couldn't even tell you. I think the finances come from a different place each time, whether it's been Metronome, who were a distribution company that went under, or private finance, or I had American finance that collapsed at the last minute and took 5 months out to do this film, and 2 weeks before it collapsed. Or whether you build it up privately from different places where you get 20% and then 80%, and then you say that they've given 80%, I just need this 20%, we can get you. The SEIS, which was a tax break where you could get 55% of your film produced, collapsed because people raided it and sent the money away. I think there was people went to prison with it, didn't they? And
Yeah.
so it's different every single time, really. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's interesting to know that you made for £200,000. I think you did pretty well. You know, 13 days, £200,000. It's, you know, not a lot of money divided by all the crew, and you know, it's yeah, it's a great feat.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? I think it was just also because it was just 2 locations. Because of the house we got from Pete, because Pete Wilde owns that house. I remember his wife Wendy saying, you can film, but you've got to film prior to Easter. Bizarre. We got the first phone call in February, said we want to film the movie, finish it by Easter, because we're going to redecorate it, so wreck the house as much as you want. It was literally like that, wasn't it?
Yes. So he said, you can make as much mess as you want, but don't damage it structurally. And so for the most part, we kind of stuck to that, really, yeah. But I think also we had a room as an office, which, because we weren't quite ready when we started filming, we were ready for the first, second and third day, but production-wise, we weren't. And I was taken on, there was other directors had been offered the job and they dropped out, or they were sacked. And so I got it with 5 weeks to go, and then they realised they needed a producer. My wife produces, Joanne Mitchell, who's in Serbia filming at the moment. And so there was an office with her and Ellie and Mark Price, who did Colin. I don't know if you know Colin, famously the £5 zombie film that did well for him. And and so they were producing kind of 24 hours a day in the office, just running around making phone calls, getting everything together. So that was a really exciting room to be around, really, because we were just off making the film, but they were producing and putting it together as we went along, really, because the time scale was short.
And I'm asking, in terms of like the next stage, where are you in terms of making back that £200,000? Is that through sales or?
See, that's nothing to do with us. So we've always been in charge of our own films, but I was really brought on as the director, and my wife was producing. But the money side is nothing to do with us. So I was nothing to do with the sales agent or the distribution deals that went on. But I know that it's got distribution throughout every English-speaking territory in the world. So I'm hoping he'll get his money back, and then I'll probably tap him up for some more to make another film. You know?
It's the name of the film as well, isn't it? In the US, is different. Is it called Scream of the Wolf?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So in the US, it's called Scream of the Wolf. What was the reason he didn't want to use Wolf Manor?
Americans don't know what a manor is, apparently.
Supposedly, yeah. So it's renamed Scream of the Wolf for the US.
There are wolf screams.
No.
Yeah, Wolf's Howl, but
Yeah.
I did Scream, yeah.
Thank you. That's interesting. Cheers.
Oh, Lenny's got a question. Oh, actually, no, lady up there, it's nearer to you. Sorry, Lenny.
Hi, from a special effects perspective, I thought it was quite amusing when the special effects guy, I've forgotten his name now, he was obviously eating the blood from the severed hand. And I know from making my own like fake blood for Halloween, fancy dress and whatnot, it tends to taste really vile. So I was curious what they used.
It's always like syrupy, isn't it? So, yeah, like, oh yeah, mint, you put mint in it, yeah. We've done it before, we've mixed it with, yeah, and also I've known before when you throw blood at walls, we've had a little bit of, which was the Two Baldies effects, said if you put a little bit of washing up liquid in it, it just takes it off the wall, it's easier to clean. But I think with that stuff, you put mint in it.
No,
I usually use ground coffee, corn flour, water and red and blue food colouring for mine, but it is a nightmare to clean up.
To be honest, just buy it
It's
through a,
edible.
yeah, it's all, you can buy internal blood and external blood. So you can actually buy syrup blood you can eat and drink. So you can literally take that blood, just drink it. It's just basically syrup and mint in there, food colouring. So we use that blood as what we put on the arm. We just have to make sure we have the right blood for the right scenes. So obviously you don't want to taste the blood that shouldn't be tasted because you'll be spitting it out again.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Lenny, are you gonna?
Yeah, shall I shout? I loved the film. Thank you so much. I laughed all the way through it. Largely because it was me. I was recognising so many werewolf movie references in there. It was so playful, but it was also, and as soon as we hit Caligari, I was ecstatic. I also loved the way that you depicted both actors and crew and the relationship between them, and it was a very, teasing and affectionate yet slightly sort of coruscating critique of the ways in which some actors may behave on set. And I wondered, Dom, whether at this point in your career you think of yourself as an actor that directs or a director who does a bit of acting.
I'm definitely an actor that directs, yeah. I think we could have gone further with that as well, with the comments on certain stereotypes on a film set, because they're always there. I mean, they were there while we were filming this, and they were parodies of the people that are actually in it, So, but yeah, I never made any secret about the fact that I'm absolutely loyal to Emmerdale, and I'm very, very, very lucky that I'm there. But I'm also very lucky that 10 years ago, John Whiston, he's across all serial dramas for ITV. He's a massive horror fan. So when we made Before Dawn, he was there at the front cheering us on. So every time I make another film, he keeps going, "You're going to make another?" You know, whereas I'm very, very lucky to be supported in that way. But I definitely am an actor who directs.
Yeah. Brilliant, thank you.
Who next wants to... Oh, yeah, gentleman up there.
First, I say, fantastic, really, really well done. Can I just ask, considering you've done other films prior to this, do you have a preference with regards to CGI or practical effects or mixture of the two? Because I saw some brilliant practical effects, but you just said about you've used CG as well. So
Well, it's not CGI, it's more composite, so even the blood, so even like the bit that you can kind of tell is when he stabs the werewolf in the back and it splats out, sort of thing. So that it was even Katie Wrigley and Neil spending the day against the green screen. So we put it up and they're pumping blood across the screen and filming it. So it's still our blood and it's still been filmed, but it's been comped in. And there's little bits where I don't. You know, there's a shot that goes from in the cellar and it goes from one room to the other and then back and then to the other. And that was just, I mean, that was my favourite night as well, because we tried it a few, and we said we're going to only get this done once. So we kept moving it across and the actors were there, and then when it went away for the last bit, you had to really, really quietly, because James Fleet was still saying his lines, move the actors out. You two ran in with the model and the head, and then get the arm in and get everything ready, and then get the pumps, the blood pumps going, just for it to go away and to come back, and then it was all there ready, and then the blood was squirting everywhere, and we got it. There was a big cheer, and we watched it back. And then Neil, who does like the practical effects, the comping and the CGI, just went, yeah, but there's a wall there. So when you go there, you just do it separately. You could have just moved the camera there. And I don't mind telling you, I did swear at him. So, yeah. But it was a great moment, that, wasn't it? It was really good fun.
Because also we had to take the cape off the actor. So he did his shots, get the cape off him, dress the body, put the head on, get the werewolf in place, holding the body up on the shot, not being in camera. We rehearsed it. And then, yeah, we could have done that as a separate place.
Even I could have done that visual effects shot.
They were fun.
It was. Yeah, I think we've that cellar where we filmed is about a 17th century cellar, and we've actually stained the flooring, the concrete flooring, which Pete, who owns a house, kind of thinks it's quite funny.
He's delighted.
Yeah, he said, don't leave the blood there, so we've left the blood stain.
It's not had it cleaned.
No.
How much of the comedy was scripted? How much was ad-libbed?
Well, mostly scripted, because we had to keep it tight for the schedule, so you couldn't really do much improvisation. But James Fleet completely got it, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's with Neil and I." So I was like, "Oh yeah." And he just wanted him really, really sweary. So he said, "Yeah, I'm an older Richard E. Grant." So I was like, "Yeah, definitely, you got it." But James kind of added. So what we said was, you can't change the script, but you can add to it. So he extended certain bits. I think he put the Shakespearean bit in, and but there was stuff that he put in that we could cut out and keep to the original, and there was loads of stuff that we kept in because he just knew it inside and out, and he was great. You know, he just didn't complain, and we knew he was staying in this hotel where there was kids next door, and he kept saying, "I can't read, it's always disturbing me." And we went, "Well, we'll move you." And he was going, "No, I'm staying here, I don't want to be a problem." And his basic mantra was, "I don't want to be a problem." So even when he wasn't in, he'd come on set and just wander around and make people cups of tea, and he was just wonderful, you know, and he really added to the whole thing, didn't he? He kept saying, "I just really, really want to change this bit," so you'd have to run it past Pete. Pete got, "That's brilliant, yeah, stick it in."
I might ask a little question. On a broader perspective, for people here who want to be filmmakers, etc., could each of you tell us a little bit about how you got into what you do, how you started out?
I went the welding route. So, well, we started because, I mean, really briefly, and I will pass the microphone on a bit, I'm waffling, but so me and my wife wrote a zombie film, and we got £15,000 from Left Films, who Helen Grace runs that. and that was like a starter, but we realised if I edited it and learnt how to edit on, is it called Final Cut? It's gone now, at the Apple thing. God, it's brilliant, you know. So I did that and did the sound, and then got the sound dubbing mixer from Emmerdale involved. So that was in their kind of what's it called, their hard drives, and. I thought, well, if I direct it and then I'm in it and then Joel's in it, so we just managed to make it for £15,000, really, you know, which is still a lot of money, and it's a massive amount of money, but not enough to make a feature film. But so we did it, and that's how I ended up directing the next one, because Metrodome took that on as a distribution, and same as I'm going to do with Pete, really. And then you knock on the door and say, you know, you took that film, would you pay for the next one? So they gave us £60,000 for Bait, that ended up on Netflix for like 3 years, and I really liked Bait. So it's just trying to crawl your way up, really, of making very low budget and then a medium budget, and then. So we're still making £200,000 films all the time. But then my wife, who's made 2 short films, is now in Serbia making a film for directing for £2.6 million, and you're like, oh, it's like straightforward, like, you know. Yeah. So it just starting small, bringing in favours, but you can't ask for favours twice, really.
I started, because obviously you do makeup and creature effects, sat in my bedroom when I was 12, 13 years old, and I saw the trailer for American Werewolf in London, which is nuts, because it's 41 years old. I had no idea how it was done, but I was obsessed with how that werewolf stretched and changed. So I started just making plasticine figures in my bedroom, and I remember saying to my careers teacher when I was 14 that I wanted to try and, you know, make monsters, and they said, well, no one can make monsters unless you live in Hollywood. So obviously, you know, I was like, okay, I'll carry on, you know. So I carried on and sat in my bedroom for 5 or 6 years, just copying from Fangoria and Starlog and, you know, Cine Fantastique. There was no internet back then. And then I wrote to Bob Keane. I mean, I wrote to Rick Baker. Oh, I'll get a job with Rick Baker. Never going to happen. But I wrote to him when I was 15. Wrote to Industrial Light and Magic when I was 15. We did Star Wars and stuff. And then I got a job on Nightbreed as my first film as a trainee. And then kind of stayed with Image Animation, a company, for 4 or 5 years. And then ended up meeting Nick Dudman, who was doing The Fifth Element at Pinewood. And then I kind of stayed with Nick for about 15 years, doing creature effects, Harry Potter's, and I ended up doing Sleepy Hollow with Kevin Yeager, and The Avengers, Age of Ultron, Captain America, Game of Thrones with Neil. Worked with Neil on Game of Thrones, which is brilliant. And yeah, just carried on making stuff. And as, you know, we still, me and Paula, because we have a company together now, we just kind of make stuff. And you know, with Dom, it's just brilliant to work with Dom. You know, it's just. We did Attack of the Adult Babies, which was brilliant. Yeah, we just kind of keep doing that stuff all the time, you know, and also just learning, constantly learning new things. And that's how me and Paula just, you know, we have a company, and we've done a few other little bits. We did Mammals, a TV show for Amazon, Peaky Blinders. Oh yeah, we did. We did it. We did something else for Universal. We can't talk. We had signed NDAs already. We killed. But yeah, so that's my career really. Pass you. Did you
mine's really boring, and cut a long story short, I started doing beauty makeup and hair very young. Got bored of that, thought, oh, I'm really good with my hands, but it just didn't get me, so I started doing marble and engraving on the walls, and I worked with a brilliant artist, Bill Allgate. They were amazing. Sadly, he's not here anymore. So I knew I'm really good, and I could paint on walls, and I just got bored of that as well. So I thought, right, I'll take it off the walls, put it on the faces. So I started learning from Shaune, and then me and Shaune got together, and that's history. And we get married next year. That's it.
I'm still trying to get into filmmaking. I mean, I studied film, and like a lot of people, when I came out of studies, it was really hard to find any practical way of applying that stuff. It's just like there isn't a job waiting for you at all. So I spent years kind of crawling around the alleyways of the industry, just trying to get in almost, you know, just trying to get anything. And I got to a point where I just thought, bollocks. I'm just not, I can't be bothered anymore. Well, this is it. And so I just thought, I'm just gonna use whatever it is that I can do, and I'm just gonna start making films about stories that I care about. And if some people watch them and like them, great. So I started making a series of short animations based on what I thought were neglected parts of British mythology, like highwaymen and things like the Screaming Skull myths and things like that. And I literally made them with friends and family, like all my family are in all those early ones. I was making them for me with sort of local arts council money, and just put them out there. And weirdly, that was when people started giving a toss about whatever it was I was doing. I think because I wasn't desperately chasing an agenda, I was just thinking, I want to do this, and I'm going to do it in this weird little way I do things. I got it out there, and then people started coming back saying, well, we quite like that, and could you do something for my film in that style? Could you do something like that? Could you adapt that style into a title sequence or something? And that's where I started getting actual sort of paid work for it, to the point where I could actually afford to go become self-employed and become like an animator. You know, I still feel like I'm faking it every day. I'm like an animator, like the little A or something. And then after a few years of trying to pitch some money around to make this thing called Ball Electric, funding kept coming in, dropping out. Things like Channel 4's shooting gallery was there at a point, and then whoever the exec was there left, and it just disappeared. So we crowdfunded it, and with the support of people like Reese, who really kind of helped champion it, and you know, just really helped, sort of came on board and helped push it forward, and just, you know, help people care about it. I made my first feature film, and again, that was another way of showing people the kind of work I was trying to do. And because of Borley, you know, I'm in no position to retire or anything, you know, but what it did do is that, again, it's another advert for the kinds of things that I like making, the kinds of work that I can do. So a lot of that kind of creative work, like the kind of stuff that Dom gives me, that kind of work is coming in very constantly now. Constantly this kind of creative stuff is coming in. And I think a lot of it is, it's good to kind of be true to the kind of things that you want to make. Don't necessarily just look at trends and think, I'm going to have to copy that because that's the only way anything will get made. It is a tough industry. It's a tough environment out there. There's lots of ways to be seen, but it's quite hard to get noticed, I think. That's the hardest thing, to get your head up just a little bit above the crowd. So if you're going to be out there in that rugby scrum, you might as well be doing what it is that you love, you know.
So yeah, I'm kind of similar. I graduated having done film studies degree, so had no idea actually how to make films. So managed to find a course at FutureWorks, which is in Manchester. Was there when that first opened and did a couple of years there, and that was great because there was barely anybody there. We had the run of the place, so we just made films. Found as many filmmakers as I could who were making short films, made them for free, edited everything I could get my hands on, and by the time I left, I had one of the producers of those short films go and make a very low budget feature. So that was, yeah, you know, only a couple of years out of graduating, I was suddenly biting off way more than I can chew in editing a feature film. And that was about 10, 12 years ago. And essentially just very slowly increasing budget levels. A producer who did one film goes on and does something slightly bigger, they take me with them, the budgets get slightly bigger and bigger. About 4 years ago I did a film called Eaten by Lions, which is the biggest budget thing I've done. And only once I'd done something like that, where it went in cinemas, you know, it had a big release, posters up on the walls and stuff like that, then I was able to start getting work in TV, which is really good if you want to make a career out of something like editing, because you might do a feature once a year and love it, but you're not necessarily getting paid enough to sustain you through the whole year. So once I was able to transition into doing TV drama, I kind of now try and alternate back and forth. So I'll do a TV series, and then I'll do a feature film. And the TV series is great because it's a long job, you get paid well, and you get to do work that lots of people see, and it's enjoyable, but tend to be a little bit more conservative in what you're allowed to do, whereas you come and do a feature film with someone like Dom, and you can really, you know, kind of stretch your legs and do things that you wouldn't necessarily be allowed to do on BBC One. So, so that's kind of the career path I've forged, but it is difficult to get into. Some other people kind of go up through the ranks, start out as trainees and assistants, and that's another way to go. I just kind of thought, no, I'm an editor, and eventually people believed me and started giving me money for it. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Well, first of all, can we give our guests a massive round of applause?